Hi there, everybody. This is a screencast to walk you through the YES test for our research writing assignment constructed response. You'll notice that I'm at the Information Central page, and this is where you can find information about the YES test. So if I go into the handout section, on the third link, if I click on the response YES test, this document will open. After you completed your first draft, you should open up the YES test and go through each item and run through that on your own copy. I'm going to walk you through all of these items and you can do yours alongside the video. Note that any mark no on this checklist will result in a -5 percentage points from your total assignment score. Let's start with the MLA heading. So I have a student sample in another tab. I'm going to scroll up to the top and we're going to start with the heading. The proper MLA heading as listed on the YES test is your name, the course, the teacher name, and the due date. This is really important. Students sometimes put a date that they're working on an assignment or they have the due date of a rough draft. You should make this so you have your name, world history, period B or period A, period C, whatever period you're in. Then you're going to have your teacher name, and my name is Ms. Miller, not Mrs. So you're going to make that adjustment if you have done else otherwise. And then lastly, the date. So this says December 5. I'm going to change this to December 10th, which is the due date. In the middle, we should have the title. The title should be centered. There should be no extra space between your MLA heading and the title. I'm highlighting this title because this is the name of the historical figure, and I would encourage you to come up with a title that is much more enticing and exciting. The title is centered, we talked about that. 12-point Times New Roman, double spaced, 1-inch margin, and we're going to italicize the controlling idea statement and do the page numbers. So let's go all through those. First of all, it's really easy to make sure that your document has 1-inch margins. You go to File, go to Page Setup, and take a look at the margins and make sure they're all set to 1 inch. For the font, that's pretty easy too. Control A, select the whole document, make sure Times New Roman is selected in your drop-down menu. Double check that you have it in size 12 because some people have their Google Docs defaulted to be in size 11. The next thing we need to do is put page numbers in, and you'll notice that on the YES test, it says that they need to be formatted correctly and they need to include the first page. So how we do page numbers is we go to the inset bar. We scroll down to page numbers, and rather than picking an item that's here, I'm just going to click more options. That way I have it in the text. I want it on the header. I want to show it on the first page. I'm going to start at number 1. Click apply. The default on many students' page numbers is that they are not in Times New Roman. So I want you to go up to the top and I want you to make sure that you've switched it to Times New Roman, and I want you to make sure that you've switched it to font size 12. The entire assignment, including the page numbers, should be in Times New Roman 12 point. But I also need to put my last name with a space in front of the number. There's no comma, there's no parentheses, it's not my full name, it's my last name. And as I scroll to the second page, you'll notice that it has automatically incorporated that page number format on the subsequent pages. The other thing we want to do is italicize our controlling idea statement, which for this assignment is a fancy way of saying the topic sentence. So go ahead and select this and italicize it. And you may be wondering why. Well, as we move forward into more lengthy writing assignments, we will be italicizing our controlling idea statements. And this is an expectation in all grade levels, in all disciplines at Barrington High School. So it's a pattern we want to get into now. Going back to the YES test, we want to make sure that your response is at least 1 full page long and no longer than 2 full pages. So you know you have your heading and your title at the top, and that's going to take up about 1/4 of the page. The rest of your response should hit at least the end of this last line that the page allows with a 1-inch margin. Go on to the second page if necessary, but it should not be longer than that second page. So there's some of you out there that might have a hard time reaching the bottom of the first page. So just think about if there's any more added context or explanation that you could add. Also, if you're finding yourself wanting to go all the way to the end of the second page or beyond that, consider shortening some of your explanations. We also need to have the works cited starting on a new page after the response. So unlike your gender equality seminar where you submitted your works cited as a separate document, you're not going to do that here. So you're going to go to the very end of your document and you're going to, if you haven't done it already, you're going to insert a page break. So you go to break and you select the page break. If you have that next page ready, you're going to begin your works cited on a new page. And you're going to format it just like you would any other works cited. And remember, I have a whole section about the works cited in that Information Central. I have written and video explanations on how to format your works cited. I would encourage you to open up your works cited from the Gender Equality Seminar and make sure that you do not make the same mistakes on this works cited that you had on the other one. Then you're going to cut and paste this actual yes test document at the end of your paragraph. And you're just going to do Control A on this document, Control C for copy, scroll to the end, insert another page break, and then paste the yes test in. And the reason why I want you to do that is because when I am scoring this, I am going to go through with my pen and I'm going to check off the no's or the yeses. And that way you have a copy of the yes test on your document, ensuring that you've seen those expectations and that I have a copy of it and I can communicate to you whether or not those expectations were met. The last part is about the evidence and the sources, and this heavily relates to the lesson we did in class about integrating evidence. If you were not in school for that, you definitely want to check out that lesson, and those materials are located in the module under a link with a yellow notebook that says integrating evidence materials. And I'm just going to scroll to that so you can see. Okay, so if you have questions about this, you can consult that page for that information. You need to have at least 2 credible academic sources from research that's not provided in class. You certainly can integrate more sources after that, but the sources that are cited in your paragraph must be from credible academic sources. This is detailed on the guidelines, and sources like Britannica or World Book or a website for tutoring like SparkNotes, those aren't considered to be academic sources. So you need to have sources most likely coming from those online databases, if you look at what the next requirement is that I explained and went over with you in class. At least one must be from online database, but most of you probably have 2 or more or all of your sources from one of those locations. They can be from the same online database, by the way. That's not a big deal because within that database, there are thousands of publications that are unique. You need to have at least one direct quotation in your response and one paraphrase quotation in the response. A way to find this is to make sure that you're doing this is to do Control F and to type in a quotation mark and look for it in your paragraph after you're done. This student actually does not meet the yes test. This student has 2 quotations in their body. There's one here. I can see the parenthetical citation, and then I can see another one. But when I look closer, I notice that this is a paraphrase, and this is one too. So here's an example of a student that would get a no for the direct quotation. So make sure you have that. We also want to make sure that we have correctly formatted parenthetical citations. So going back to this sample, right here where the student has indicated where they've gotten this research from, I'm going to zoom in so you can see. This is a parenthetical citation, but incidentally, this is not done correctly. I wonder if you can spot what's problematic about it. What's problematic about it is the punctuation should not be here, but rather after the parentheses. Why does this student have Stuart, comma, Mary in quotation marks? Because if I go to this student's works cited, I notice that this article did not have an author. So you might be wondering, how do I cite a source that doesn't have an author or doesn't have or has a title and doesn't have an author? All of those questions are answered for you. If you go back to that research writing assignment information central, if you scroll down to the bottom, there is a section about in-text citations. You can access the BHS library summary. You can watch my video tutorial answering these common student questions. You can check out the OWL at Purdue tutorial, or you can see the screenshot that I took from the Barrington Library resource about with a known author versus no author. So those are common questions. It's perfectly normal for you to be wondering that format, and all of those answers are available to you. And lastly, the format of the works cited needs to be correct. And again, that is all in here too. Works cited information, come on back and check out that list of sources. So that's the yes test. This is the walkthrough. Hopefully this helped you usher your paragraph through the yes test to getting all yeses.